5 years after breaking up, I got a call from an unknown number. Can we try again? His voice still sounded familiar, but before I could answer, my kid piped up, Mom, is that Dad on the phone? There was silence on the other end for a while, and then I heard a self-deprecating laugh. Just a punishment for losing a game on a reality show. Don't take it seriously. Sorry for bothering you. Henry's teary moment was trending all day. When David came by to pick up the kid later, he said, I saw the trending topic. Are you okay? Do you want to explain things to him? I forced a smile. I'm fine, don't worry. As he was leaving, Lucy didn't want to say goodbye, Mom. I want to come play with you again tomorrow. No, you have school tomorrow. You can't just think about playing all the time. And how many times have I told you to call Carrie Aunt Carrie? Everyone has just one mom. David gave me an apologetic look as he corrected her. Lucy's mom had sadly passed away in a car accident shortly after she was born, so she never really got to know her. David had shown her their wedding photos, and since then, every pretty woman she saw became Mom in her mind. All of us who knew their story never really corrected her, because we felt for the little one. But today, it led to a big misunderstanding. After work, Clara showed up at my place with fried chicken and beer. Her first words were, I saw the trending topic. Are you okay? Do you want to explain things to him? She and David really are siblings. They say the exact same things. I curled up on the couch, watching her set the snacks and drinks on the table. I took the can of beer she handed me and took a big gulp. The cold beer helped clear my messy thoughts. With my eyes half closed, hiding the whirlwind of emotions inside, I said, would explaining even change anything? I can't give him the answer he's hoping for. Did you watch the recording of Henry's live show? Clara asked as she opened a can and clinked it against mine. I shook my head. Lucy was a handful. I didn't have time to watch the whole thing, and honestly, maybe I was just too scared to look. Clara insisted, I think you should watch it, and played the trending video, passing her phone to me. The guests were playing the classic game of truth or dare. After some rough rounds of truth, it was Henry's turn, and he chose dare. The card instructed, call your first love and say hi. Once everyone saw what was written, the room buzzed with excitement. Henry had been famous for 6 years, winning loads of awards and gaining tremendous fame. Yet he never seemed to have any scandals, and kept a respectful distance from women both on and off camera. This mystery raised everyone's curiosity. Who was this first love of his? Did he ever even date anyone? When Henry read first love, his relaxed smile froze. One guest tried to help. Henry's almost 30. His first love was forever ago. Does he even still have their number? Let's pick another dare. Others nodded in agreement. To everyone's surprise, Henry reached out to the crew. Could I get my phone, please? Thanks. All the adults could think was, it's normal to still have an ex's number, right? It's just a call, not a big deal. But as the phone rang, everyone's hearts thumped in sync with the rings, feeling strangely excited and nosy. Just as the call was about to go to voicemail, I picked up. Hello. I thought it was a delivery or a spam call. I didn't know that Henry was so nervous his other hand had balled into a fist. His lips moved, but no words came out. Everyone on set felt the tension, focusing on the phone, no one daring to speak. It was like the air had frozen. Say something, or I'll hang up. Just as I was about to disconnect, he blurted out, Can we start over? The voice was so familiar it felt like a dream, because in my dreams, I heard it 1,000 times. Before I could react, Lucy's little voice went straight through, Mom. Is that Dad on the phone? Suddenly, it was dead silent on his end. After a while he said, just a game punishment on a show. Don't take it to heart. Sorry for bothering you. His voice shook, full of self-mockery. That was my perspective. I didn't know that right after hanging up, Henry's eyes turned red. The video ended, and Clara pulled up another post for me. I'm a crew member from today's live show. Gotta spill the tea. H cried so much after the call ended, and the live stream cut off. Everyone went back to their tents to rest. But H tucked himself away, sobbing uncontrollably, breaking our hearts. I don't think he ever got over his first love. That's why he kept to himself all these years, but she's a mom now. Heartbreaking for anyone, even a superstar. To prove they were legit, this person even snapped a pic showing part of their work batch. They really were from the show's crew. Clara put her phone down and said he was supposed to just say hi. But he asked if you two could try again. Seems like he hasn't moved on. She finished and added, aren't you curious how he got your phone number? I changed my contact information and phone number after we broke up back then. I cut off every way for him to reach me. Clara sighed. I heard he was asking around for your contact info from your old club friends. People even came asking me about it. I thought he'd reach out back then, but I guess he waited until now to call. If it wasn't for that punishment card on the show, he probably wouldn't have had the guts to make that call. Otherwise, he'd keep agonizing over those numbers every night, lost in hesitation and struggle. But Clara, I'm not worthy of his love anymore, ever since the moment I gave up on him. I can only say this to you. Clara dismissed it in love. There's no such thing as worthy or not. She looked at me seriously. You were once a rich little princess, and you didn't mind he was just a poor boy. Ask yourself, have you really moved on from him? I couldn't answer. Instead, I kept gulping down alcohol, trying to numb myself. I didn't have the courage to voice the answer. Now he's like a bright star shining in the sky. We're no longer in the same world. Clara sighed, come on girl, let's drink until we drop. Bottle after bottle hit the floor, and our minds got fuzzier, our conversation more random, until Clara finally passed out on the carpet, sound asleep. I stared at the phone beside me, suddenly gripped by a strange impulse. I regretted it by the second ring, but no matter how hard I tried, my fingers couldn't find the end call button on the screen. In a fluster, the call connected. Neither of us spoke first, just listened to each other's ragged breaths for a while. I finally couldn't hold back, my voice shaking. Does what you said today still count? Ha! Henry laughed scornfully. Carrie, even if I have no dignity left, I won't be a third party in someone's marriage. His words snapped us both back to reality. The call ended abruptly. That whole night, I was lost in chaotic dreams. In the snow, Henry stood on the steps, looking down on me coldly. Carrie, stop wasting your time. I'll never like you. Later, on a plane tree path covered in golden leaves, he held me gently and whispered in my ear, Carrie, I'll always love you. I woke up to a damp room. Sweet memories turned into sharp knives, slicing through every inch of me. They didn't kill me, but I was left a bloody mess. My mom called, asking me to come over for dinner that night. Ken picked me up after work. As I sat in the passenger seat, he noticed my dark circles. Rough night? Got something on your mind? Nothing, slept great. I lied. Ken didn't press on, changed the subject. Rested enough? When do you want to start at the studio? After quitting my job a while back, Ken had been asking me to help out at his photography studio, just as a temporary gig. Since I didn't have anywhere else to be, and staying idle was pointless, I agreed. Tomorrow? I'll pick you up in the morning. No need. I can take the subway myself. Just 2 stops away, no hassle for him. My mom was waiting at the door. Seeing Ken with me, she had a flash of displeasure, quickly hiding it. Ken was my mom's step-husband's son, 2 years older than me. My mom never liked us getting too close, afraid I'd fall for him, or that he'd start having thoughts about me. Ignoring the step-sibling issue, Ken's situation didn't meet her high standards for a son-in-law. I set the fruits and supplements I brought on the living room table, greeted Ken's dad busy in the kitchen. Ken went to help his dad while my mom grabbed my hand, pulling me onto the living room sofa. Her expression dodgy, starting and stopping. Without a hint of emotion, I eased my hand out of hers. Just say it. Are you still in contact with Henry? I frowned. What are you really trying to say? She coughed lightly, still putting on airs, but her tone softened. If you want to get back together, I won't interfere anymore. I chuckled. Do you think I'm so arrogant? I dumped him when he was down, and now that he's successful, I think he'll just come back? Everyone's got pride, especially someone as accomplished as him. I already hurt him once. When we broke up, he, typically arrogant, was crying his heart out, begging me not to leave, asking for 2 more years, but I coldly turned away every time. Now what right do I have to ask him back? Before we went bankrupt, my mom always wanted me to marry rich, above ordinary born Henry. Good looks can't help you, he's just some actor. A woman's youth isn't spared. You both graduated nearly a year, can't drag this anymore. Break it off. I got used to her nagging, in one ear and out the other. I was confident in Henry. With his looks and dedication, I believed he'd make it big, and my mom would come to accept him. But I never saw it coming when my mom, seeing my indifference, stopped working on me. She meddled with Henry's career instead, constantly getting his hard-won roles swapped last minute. Those days Henry was defeated, deeply doubting himself. I was by him, but couldn't help at all. Gotta admit my mom's smart. She wouldn't threaten Henry directly, or tell him to break up. She thought dealing with a nobody actor would cheapen her. But she sent a clear message through those direct actions. She could easily control our future. The consequence of my disobedience was indirectly shattering Henry's dreams. Even for him, I had to let go. She won. My mom seemed to have entirely forgotten what she had done before. That's not what I said. I think he still has feelings for you. I internally snorted. Not everyone can let go as easily as she does. When my dad went bankrupt and passed away from depression, she turned around and remarried her first love without a second thought, quickly cutting off the past and starting a new life. I didn't want to discuss these things with her any further, so I hurriedly left after dinner. Some things you just can't go back to. Ken's photography studio isn't very big. There are only 5 people, including the owner. But Ken has a lot of ideas and creativity when it comes to photography. His work always captures the right atmosphere, showcasing the model's most beautiful side. He often collaborates with online influencers, and as a result, has a large following on social media. The studio is never short of clients, and starting last year, even many hot celebrities in the industry began reaching out for shoots. My job is mainly to help him film some of the daily shoot highlights, edit them, and post them on various social platforms. I also manage the accounts. He looks good enough to attract tons of fans, so really, there's not much I need to do to make those numbers grow. On the 5th day of officially working there, Mike, Ken's assistant, looked up from his phone when I arrived at the studio and said, "Bro, why not bring Carrie along? Plus, she's your exclusive behind-the-scenes shooter, right?" Ken glanced at me with a complicated expression and insisted she stays. "Where are you going?" I asked, confused. Mike smiled mysteriously. "Going to City A. We're leaving the day after tomorrow to shoot a departure photo for someone you'd never expect at an awards ceremony. We're catching an early flight tomorrow morning to set up. To achieve near-perfect effects, they always set up real scenes based on the style of the shoot, which is really time-consuming and labor-intensive. Everyone else had work to finish, so only Mike was going with Ken, naturally hoping for an extra pair of hands. "I'll come with you guys. More help can't hurt." I teased Ken, "Boss Fu, you're not skipping out on my ticket to save money, right?" Mike also laughed. "My bro isn't that stingy. I bet he's worried you'd get starstruck and mess up the work." Ken sighed and said, "Do you know who he's talking about?" "Who?" I asked. "Henry." Now I understood why Ken gave me that look earlier. I've purposely been avoiding thinking about that name. I've even stopped scrolling through short videos to avoid seeing him. Hearing it again felt like another lifetime ago. Unaware of the backstory, Mike joked, shocked, "Huh?" Ken shot him a glance. "Hurry up and book your flight. Quit talking nonsense." Mike persisted, "Really not taking Carrie with us? With just him and Ken? So much work might go until tomorrow morning." "I'm going. I can't let personal reasons affect work." By 2 a.m., Mike was sprawled out on the hotel floor, eyes vacant. "Bro, I can't imagine how long it would have taken us without Carrie. Shouldn't have been so responsible and come along," I thought, collapsing beside Mike, equally exhausted. Henry's team sent us images of the outfits for tomorrow's event in advance. A long brown leather coat paired with black suit pants. Based on the style, we set up a dark theme with lots of props like cobwebs, which were quite tedious. By the time we finished, we were exhausted. I glanced at the printouts of the outfits Ken had. Inwardly, I wondered if that long coat would even look good. In reality, I totally underestimated Henry's model-like physique and that face, which could be a masterpiece. He wore a black shirt under the leather coat, unbuttoned 3 buttons revealing a hint of his toned chest, casual yet seductive. His hair slicked back, coat open, hands in his pockets, he entered the spacious suite with his entourage. This suite was set up for today's photo shoot. After years apart, he didn't seem much different, although his eyes reflected a new confidence of a successful man. Wearing a baseball cap and mask, I occasionally hid behind Mike while filming on my phone. But really, Henry didn't look at me once. He didn't even care about the people the photographer brought along. Mike leaned over and whispered, "Why are you bundled up like that? Aren't you hot? People might think you're the celebrity here." I gave him a look that screamed, "You just don't get it." Even though it was our first time working together, Henry and Ken, one with amazing looks and the other with solid skills, surprisingly synced well. The completion rate was high, and the photos came out fast. Towards the end of the shoot, I realized Henry didn't recognize me and wasn't even aware of me. I gradually relaxed and started focusing on filming behind the scenes. While stepping back to get a wide shot, I unexpectedly stumbled over something, almost falling, and let out a startled yelp. Everyone in the room immediately turned their attention towards me. I quickly bowed my head, apologizing, sorry, carry on. Ken, still holding his camera, walked over anxiously, looking me up and down. "You okay?" I'm fine. I pushed him back. "Get back to work, don't mind me." Henry was on a tight schedule. Shooting time wasn't plenty to begin with. Yet as Ken raised his camera again, the model stopped cooperating, frowning and saying coolly, taking a break. "But, you only have half an hour left before you need to leave," his manager Jason complained, looking pained. Ever since that incident a few days ago, someone who was typically calm and composed suddenly turned quite moody. Jason has been constantly checking in on him, fearing something else might happen, treating him like royalty, trying to keep him happy. Today, it seemed like the guy's mood was improving. He was cooperating, so nobody expected him to suddenly flip out again. Jason felt like crying. Henry had already sat down on the sofa with his leg crossed, tapping his right hand on his knee, casually glancing in my direction. I found myself avoiding his gaze like crazy. Ken jumped in to ease the situation, saying we shot enough, and it's okay to take a break. Even if we wrapped up now, we had enough footage. Ken asked Mike to go downstairs and get some drinks for Henry and his team. Ken didn't say it, but I knew he probably felt my earlier antics affected Henry's mood, so he thought buying them some drinks might help. Regardless, they were the ones footing the bill, so we needed to keep them happy. I offered I'll go get them. "In case we start again soon, Mike should stay to help you." I walked out and ordered takeout on my phone, arranging to pick it up. By the time I got to the tea shop, the drinks were just about ready. As I stepped out of the elevator with the packaged drinks, an arm suddenly pulled me into the fire escape. Caught off guard, I dropped all the drinks. Fortunately, they were sealed, sparing the floor from getting messy. In the dim corridor, a tall figure propped against the walls next to me, trapping me leaning in. I could feel a restrained yet heavy breath above me. "Carrie, what's your deal?" Still, I got found out. I tried pushing him away, but the strength difference was too big. He didn't budge. Instead, I accidentally touched his firm abs, felt my face heat up, and quickly pulled my hand back. "What do you mean? What do I mean? You turn me down, then show up again. Are you messing with me to make my life miserable?" I looked away. "Wasn't it you who turned me down?" Flipping the script, huh? He kept talking like he didn't hear me. "Is that guy Ken?" "What? I don't get it." He didn't care if I understood. His eyes, bloodshot with tangled emotions, stripped my mask away, gripping my chin, taking over my breath. I turned red from the lack of oxygen, but he didn't plan on letting go, nibbling my lip, whispering, "You walked into my trap. Now neither of us is getting out easy." My head spun. I felt faint. Weak-kneed. I leaned into his waist, forced to endure his fervent onslaught. Tension filled the air. Finally, he let me go but was still reluctant. Out of breath, my eyes welled up. I pushed at his chest to create distance. Had enough? Once I caught my breath, I struggled free from his arms, my head a jumbled mess, desperate to bolt. Just as I reached for the emergency exit handle, he rasped behind me, "Divorce him. And I'll help raise your kid. I'll treat her like my own child, I promise. Just leave him." By the end, he was almost begging. Stunned, I couldn't believe these words came from someone so proud. A heavy ache pressed on my heart, making it hard to breathe. I thought I should explain things to him. But before I could, hurried footsteps and anxious voices sounded outside. Henry had been gone too long. They were out looking for him. I was about to open the door and leave, But he held me from behind, showing no care for the situation. I had no choice. Let's go out. You've got to head to the shoot, or you'll be late. We can talk after. I'll be waiting. Really? Really? Promise you're not lying. I promise. Henry refused to let me go separately and led me out of the escape hand in hand. Everyone outside stared at our linked hands and swollen lips, stunned. The tension inside was clear without saying. Thankfully, they were all our people. Ken frowned, his eyes dark and deep. I quickly broke free from Henry, moving towards Ken and the rest. But Henry grabbed me again, insisting, "You're coming with me." Ken stepped forward, brushing Henry's hand off mine. "Henry, she's my employee. If she leaves, it's with me. Remember your place." Henry didn't relent, eyes on me. "You tell me, who are you going with?" "Boss, it's late, really late." Jason rushed over, trying to take Henry away. Henry stood firm, eyes still locked on me. I had to say, "Text me the address after your work. I'll find you. You better come." He hesitated but agreed. "All right. Don't walk away with someone else." "Got it." At the elevator, he looked back over everyone's heads at me. "Carrie, if you lie, you're dead." Once the group left, Ken let out a bitter laugh. "Carrie, I regret bringing you to City A." He sensed, at that moment, the light he tried to grasp slipped through his fingers entirely. Originally, I had an 8 p.m. flight booked, but I couldn't leave right now. Only Ken and Mike were sticking to the plan. Just before leaving, Mike couldn't help but ask, "Was the online buzz about Henry's first love who dumped him about you?" I didn't reply, but Mike got it. He glanced at our boss, appearing regretful, holding back words. He just said, "Carrie, sometimes you should notice those around you." Ken coolly patted him on the shoulder from behind and said, "Let's go." He didn't even look back. Henry instructed his assistant to upgrade my room, so I moved my few belongings to the new suite. I lounged on the sofa, killing time by scrolling through short videos. As I scrolled, a live stream caught my attention. It was inside today's award ceremony. The camera was focused on Henry sitting in the front row. It seemed to be broadcast by a Henry fan. The camera was centered on him the whole time, so I couldn't help but click in. The comments were praising the streamer for having the right connections, not only getting inside the event, but also live streaming Henry's incredible looks so clearly. Everyone was grateful for her. Henry seemed distracted today, constantly checking his phone. If I didn't know he's been single forever, I'd suspect he's waiting for a message from a girlfriend. Fans didn't hold back when they teased him. I noticed it too, maybe something's up. He's never glued to his phone at events before. If Henry starts dating, we'd definitely support him. Hopefully, he'll move past the shadow of his first love soon. I rolled my eyes. Since when is it a shadow? Then again, maybe it is. Though I'd rather not admit it. I remembered the address he texted me shortly after he left. It's a swanky place downtown that costs a fortune. The message also had a door code, which was our anniversary date. I was busy helping Mike pack at the time, and only glanced at my phone before pocketing it. I forgot to reply until now. I pulled up our chat and sent back a simple "got it." Switching back to the live stream, I noticed Henry's mood had improved. He was smiling faintly and looked more relaxed, typing on his phone, seemingly wrestling with what to write. After a bit, a new text popped up. "I should wrap up around 11. You can wait for me at home." Then a second message, "Or I can pick you up after I'm done." Followed by a third, "What are you up to now?" Just as I typed my response, a popular actress sat next to him, all smiles and trying to chat. Henry greeted her politely but leaned away, obviously trying to create some distance. The chat exploded with comments. "Damn, Molly just can't take a hint," she confessed jokingly on a show. And even though Henry turned her down nicely, her fans still gave him a hard time. Who's being clueless here? After such an awkward mess, she still has the nerve to cozy up to him. Yeah, seriously, she should back off. This is so frustrating. She's not even supposed to be sitting there, right? That seat's meant for my fave Nolan. Unaware of the chatter, Henry kept glancing at his phone. Molly asked casually, "What are you looking at?" He turned the screen down, not letting her peek. She tried several times to make conversation, but got only polite and distant responses. When Nolan arrived, Molly took an awkward excuse to slip back to her seat a few rows back. Nolan adjusted his suit as he sat beside Henry, Crossing his legs and shielding his mouth, he whispered, "Your manager said to remind you, stop checking your phone. There's a live stream." Henry scanned the crowd, finally resting his gaze on a young girl holding up her phone. She was trembling with excitement as he looked at her camera. Henry sighed, rubbing his temples. "Can't Jason stop people from live streaming here?" Nolan shrugged. "Apparently, she's some bigwig's precious only daughter, untouchable." Henry turned his head, offering the camera just his profile. "Fine, whatever." When a new message came in, he checked it instantly, only to find spam. He sighed and turned his screen off again, disappointed. It was the first time Nolan saw him so preoccupied and teased. "What's up? Another heartbreak?" "What do you mean another? Come on, man. Everyone saw the buzz from your last program. Your first love has moved on and become a mom. Sounds like heartbreak to me. Your first heartache was when your first love broke up. Heard you cried in secret. True or not?" Nolan went on, clearly enjoying the banter. With long-standing friendship, they joked freely without filters. Henry licked his dry lips. "Nonsense." Nolan laughed. "Doesn't sound like a baseless rumor to me." "Nolan, I'm dying to know who your legendary first love is. If you ever win them over, let me meet them first." Henry gave him a side eye. Gotta admit, Nolan knows him too well. A new text came in, and Henry glanced at it out of the corner of his eye. His heart leapt before his brain could even process. "I'm watching your stream." He straightened up, adjusted his hair, and asked Nolan, "How do I look right now?" Nolan gave him a puzzled look and admitted, "Honestly, you look great. If I were a woman, I'd be smitten." Henry liked that answer. Casually, he turned his face back toward the camera, beginning to fidget, cradling his chin with his finger or unbuttoning his shirt a little more at the chest, and occasionally stretching his neck. Nolan's jaw almost hit the floor as he called it out. "Dude, you're like a peacock flaunting its feathers with every move. What's gotten into you? Did you lose your mind or something?" Henry casually ran his middle finger along his eyebrow. "Calm as ever, come on. Say hi to your future sister-in-law on camera." Crazy. When the award ceremony officially started, a fan reluctantly got pulled away from the live stream. The person being live streamed immediately relaxed, lazily leaning back in his chair. Today's award ceremony wasn't a big deal. Almost every actor present could grab a trophy. Henry was set for the grand finale as usual. Usually, he didn't care much, just sat through it with a smile and clap when the camera panned his way. But today, he was unusually restless, wishing he could speed up the endless speeches by 3 times. Finally, at 11:30 he was free. He grabbed his phone immediately, texting and striding toward the van. "Done. You still at the hotel? I'm coming to get you." I was unlocking his apartment door when I got Henry's text. I replied, "I'm at your place." He shot back instantly, "Cool, wait up, be there soon." The place was a city center penthouse, with a huge floor-to-ceiling window, showcasing the city's vibrant night lights. It looked new, but lacked signs of a lived-in home, like daily essentials. The decor was simple and cozy, with a familiar vibe that made me feel nostalgic. I opened a door to find a Steinway grand piano and other instruments on the walls. Someday, I'll design our home myself. A big window in the living room where we drink and chat every night. An open kitchen so I can watch you cook. You're really handsome, focused like that. And a music room with my piano and your guitar. I could teach you to play too. These dreams blended with reality, making my eyes misty. Turns out that he remembered every word I said and made it happen. A corner of the piano had my name engraved, surrounded by fingerprints he hadn't yet managed to wipe clean. I suddenly imagined him tenderly tracing my name. As he worked on these, what went through his mind? When Henry opened the door, he paused upon hearing the gentle piano melody. This was the scene he'd dreamed of, coming home to familiar music. After my family went bankrupt, our expensive piano was sold to pay debts. It had been ages since I'd played, but thanks to years of practice, my fingers knew what to do without much guidance. Henry rushed toward the room as I paused playing and smiled at him. He held a bouquet, watching me with greedy eyes, as if he wanted to memorize this moment forever. It was the song Love Letter, as if asking this time, are you choosing regret or reunion? The bouquet of cappuccino roses in Henry's hands already answered. I told him cappuccino roses meaning the desire to have you always, from the very first encounter, expressing longing after a long separation and hope for a new start. As the song ended, I had something to tell him too. Seeing his nervous yet hopeful look, I couldn't help but tease him like old times. "You sure you want to help raise my kid?" I asked. Without hesitation, he nodded firmly. "If it's your kid, it's mine too." Feigning sadness, I said after a pause, "But..." He glanced at me worried. I took out my phone and video called David right in front of Henry. David picked up quickly. "Lucy napped all afternoon, refusing bedtime now. She wanted to call and chat with you, and here you are." He called Lucy over. Seeing her up so late was a pleasant surprise. Lucy grabbed the phone, pressing it to her chubby cheek. "Mommy, I miss you. When are you coming to play?" I glanced at Henry, who seemed frozen, biting his lip to keep it together. He looked a bit clueless and pitiful. I told him, "Come here." He hesitated, taking stiff, uncertain steps toward me as if walking on a tightrope, his mind torn. He was near breaking point. When he reached me, I turned the camera toward him. Lucy's curious eyes darted around. "Mommy, who's that?" "He's handsome." Henry squeezed his fists, veins bulging. Seeing the child, he likely realized how foolish and silly his actions seemed. He shouted hoarsely, "Enough, just leave." That last string snapped. The bouquet fell to the ground. He'd given up, but did it have to hurt his heart? I sighed, facing Lucy. "Lucy, what should you call me?" Lucy pouted, glancing at her dad, then reluctantly said, "Auntie." Even after the call ended, Henry still seemed dazed in a fog. From hell back to heaven, he seemed in disbelief. I rose to face him, continuing, "But what if I have no kids for you to raise?" He pulled me tight, burying his face in my neck. Soon, I felt his tears on my skin. Who would have thought the aloof heartthrob I met was actually a soft-hearted crybaby? I wrapped my arms around his waist, gently stroking his back, feeling a bittersweet pang. "I'm sorry. I should have said that 5 years ago. I left him when he needed me most, and I'm truly sorry. And thank you. Thank you for coming back to me even when I kept pushing you away. We're even now." "What? Back in college, I turned you down a bunch of times too. So we're even." For a long time afterward, he regretted it deeply, realizing he was downright out of his mind back then. He thought a bit more and said, "If I'd known, I would have taken you straight to the courthouse the first time we met. With legal ties, I couldn't just abandon him on a whim." "No way. You wouldn't want to?" He looked a bit disappointed. I leaned in to whisper in his ear with a smile, "Dummy, we weren't even of legal age to marry back then." The next second, he threaded his fingers through my hair, pulling me in for a deep kiss. That night, he was like a starved wolf, finally letting me go at the crack of dawn. When I woke up, he wasn't by my side. I could hear the shower running in the bathroom. I checked my phone for the time. It was almost noon. Thankfully it was Saturday, no need to call in. Thinking about Ken, I realized just yesterday how his feelings for me had changed. Before then, I'd thought it was just like siblings, helping each other out because it was right. I even thought my mom was overthinking it, but now it seems I was the one thinking too little. In the current situation, staying by his side like nothing was unfair to him. After some thought, I sent him my resignation letter. He called back, "Thought it through?" "Yeah." I realized my voice was a bit hoarse. The culprit, fresh from his shower, with a towel around his waist, sat silently at the bed's edge, watching me on the phone. I mouthed, "Why are you staring?" He didn't answer, just leaned in for a quick peck on my lips. I shot him a look, "Stop it." On the phone, Ken seemed to have sensed something. After a pause, he asked, "Is he really that good?" Couldn't help but remember back in college when Henry rejected me, and I returned to the dorm dejected. Clara asked me the same thing. She said, "Carrie, sure, Henry's great, but you don't need to be stuck on just him, right? Is he really that good?" At the time, I brightly said, "I don't like him for the things around him. I like Henry just for being Henry, one of a kind. The Henry who's cold on the outside but warm inside, who builds a winter shelter for stray cats, and who gently buries a pup killed in an accident." His soft heart was far more enchanting than his looks. Clara shook her head, "You're hopeless." Yeah, I was hopeless, wanting to cling to him for life. I used to think, once we're together, I'd never let him go. Never thought I'd be the one to let go first. Pulling myself out of my thoughts, I looked at Henry, still damp from the shower, smiling as I told the person on the phone, "Yeah, he's truly amazing. So amazing that after meeting him, I've never looked at anyone else." Ken was silent again, then chuckled lightly. "Make sure to come home for dinner often. Auntie always talks about you." "Got it, bro." As soon as the call ended, Henry pulled me out from under the blankets. "What are you doing?" "Helping you shower." He leaned close. "Or do you still have the strength to do it yourself?" I wrapped my arms around his neck, blushing and burying my face in his chest, whispering, "All right, help me then." After getting out of the shower, I felt like my body was coming apart, letting Henry tuck me back into bed. As he leaned in to kiss me again, I pulled the covers over my face, yelling, "Henry, isn't it enough already?" My voice, hoarse as it was, lacked any real bite. Chuckling, he pulled the covers down. "Who said I was going to? Or do you want to?" "If I turned away, I don't." "Shouldn't you be off to work?" Henry propped himself up on both sides of me, making me look up at him. "Kicking me out already?" He feigned a pout. "Carrie, you really are heartless, taking without cherishing." Even knowing he joked, my breath caught. I mumbled, "Couldn't be so heartless. Honestly, back then, I used to sneak peeks at you. Many times. Once a woman followed him to his building, stopping him, asking, 'Henry, she's dumped you. Can't you let go and look at me? How am I not good enough?' He calmly looked at her, like reaching a decision. 'I can't let go. I never will. She's never a choice among others for me. She's the only answer. Not one of multiple choices. Not even a single choice.' Later, my dad passed away, and my mom remarried, taking me to another place, truly ending my habit of checking on him. Henry lay next to me, propping himself up on one elbow, pulling me into his arms, getting lost in his memories too. "I tried finding you too." That was after his first lead role exploded in popularity, boosting his career. He thought he had finally earned the chance to face me again. Upon reaching my old home, he realized it had become an empty building. That's when he learned what happened to my family. Henry stroked my shoulder, gently saying later, through former classmates, "I found out you moved elsewhere." Since then, he'd spend breaks in Haicheng. Unfortunately, the city's too big. We never crossed paths. So are we meant to be or not? I looked up at him. He pinched my cheek, eyes steady. "I believe we make our own fate more than relying on destiny." I poked his chin, grumbling. "Weren't you telling me to leave just yesterday?" "That was..." He looked down at me. "Who told you to lie to me? If us being together depended on some child's unfortunate childhood, he'd rather bear the pain himself." "Who fooled you? You misunderstood. Is it my fault then? Who else's fault would it be?" "Fine, it's my fault, my fault." He pulled me closer, and I smugly nuzzled against his neck. His voice turned husky all of a sudden. "You better behave, or I can't promise you'll be able to get out of bed today." At the end of the year, Clara came to City A to visit me. While shopping, we both bought some scratch-off tickets for fun. She won $50, and I lost 10. I couldn't help but lament. My luck is really awful. Clara nudged my arm and tapped her forefingers together, pretending to be serious. "Do you know how rare it is to find another lovesick person like yourself in this world? If you think this is bad luck, then no one has good luck." I smiled, nodding in agreement. "Yeah, you're absolutely right. Having Henry is already a jackpot." "Clara, is it a bummer he can't spend your first New Year's Eve together after getting back together? He has to attend a New Year's Eve show." I hugged Clara. "Isn't it great that I have you? My dearest friend." Clara gave a meaningful smile and suddenly said, "Carrie, it's really nice to see you so happy now." She had seen me during my rough patch, making her understand how precious this happiness is. Her sudden sentiment brought tears to my eyes. "You too, Yaya. You have to be happy. For the rest of our lives, we both have to be happy." After dinner, snowflakes started to fall from the sky. Clara wanted to reminisce about our college days and took me back to the university campus. As the night deepened, the campus was nearly deserted. We walked from the cafeteria to the lecture halls, and then to the dorms, chatting endlessly about the past. Before we knew it, we found ourselves near the boys' dormitory. Looking at the familiar steps outside, I couldn't help but reminisce. Henry first turned me down right here. Thinking back now, it seems funny, and I can't recall any sadness at all. When I finally emerged from my memories with a smile, Clara was nowhere to be seen. Turning around in a panic, I saw a tall man in a black coat holding an umbrella and a bunch of orange roses, walking towards me through the wind and snow. I beamed at him. "What are you doing here?" I was about to run to him when he stopped me with his voice. "Stay right there." I stopped, puzzled. Henry passed by me with the umbrella, taking 3 quick steps up the stairs, looking down at me. It felt like stepping back in time to 10 years ago, same place, same positions. But this time, Henry's eyes weren't cold and impatient. They were brimming with emotion. He put down the umbrella, glanced at his watch and said, "Carrie, it's December 31st, 2014, 11:55 p.m. I was stunned. This was exactly 10 years from when I first rushed to confess to him here. "Henry, could you repeat what you just said?" I didn't quite catch it. At this moment, I understood his intention. Holding back tears, I copied my younger self, grinning brightly. "Henry, I think I kinda like you. Do you want to like me back?" He looked at me steadily, his eyes misty too, and slowly but firmly said, "Carrie, I love you." The streetlights cast a dim, flickering glow. Time seemed to come to a standstill. At this moment, we glimpsed eternity in each other's eyes. The end.